Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody.
Hillary Clinton wants to abolish it, believe me. She wants to abolish our Second Amendment.
I think they didn't deny it. I don't think anybody denied it.
Other presidents did not call. They'd write letters, and some presidents didn't do anything.
Many people have come out and said I'm right.
You really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop?
Hello and welcome to Fallacious Trump, the podcast where we use the insane ramblings of the undisputed world champion of destroying things to explain logical fallacies. I'm your host, Jim.
And I'm your other host, Mark. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning that results in bad or invalid arguments. And the logical fallacy we're looking at this week is the Iron Man fallacy, also known as argumentum cum ferrum and turd polishing. From the sublime to the ridiculous there, to the profane. Yeah.
So, the Iron Man fallacy. This is a kind of a variation on the straw man. In that, with the straw man
and the steel man,
with straw man, you misrepresent your opponent's argument to make it easier to defeat. With the Iron Man, what you do is you misrepresent your own argument to make it seem much stronger than it actually is.
Right.
And you kind of turn it into an argument that isn't what you're actually arguing, but it's one that anyone would find much harder to argue with.
To argue against, right? Yeah. Oh, hence the turd polishing, because it works on the principle that you need to have made an argument already that you're now recharacterizing.
You're having trouble defending your real argument, so you pretend that you're making actually a much stronger argument than you are. Successfully defend that one. And then go, see, I've won my battle.
Sorry, you won the other one. Yeah, quite.
So for our first example, we have Trump's discussion with the minority leaders at the time about border security, the wall, and the government shutdown at the end of 2018.
Oh, yeah.
We're starting this with Nancy Pelosi's remarks, because Trump has just said some bullshit about, drugs and immigrants and people coming over who are either terrorists or have contagious diseases or something like that. And she's basically saying, none of that's true. Yeah.
We have to have an evidence-based conversation about what does work, what money has been spent, and how effective it is. This is about the security of our country, to take an oath to protect and defend. And we don't want to have that mischaracterized by anyone. And
I agree with that. No, I agree with that.
So let us have a conversation where we don't have to contradict in public the statistics that you put forth, but instead can have a conversation about what will really work and what the American people deserve from us at this uncertain time in their lives.
The one thing I think we can agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about it.
The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened it up very quickly. And
20 times.
I don't want to do what you did.
20 times you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wool. None of us have said it.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on my...
You said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud, and I'll tell you what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
So he's saying that it's just border security. Who can argue with that?
Well,
everyone wants border security. Yeah. And that's all we're trying to do. Of course, he's ignoring the fact that what they're arguing with is his claims for why he needs the wall and why he needs to spend all the money on the wall.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's so determined to get the money for the wall that if they don't give him the money for the wall, he'll shut the government down.
Yeah.
But he's kind of turning it into, all I want to do is have border security. That's all I'm trying to do. Which is obviously a much stronger argument because even those specific Democrats agree that border security is important.
Yes, exactly. So he's listening. Well, if only he was that sensitive to what was going on rather than already deciding what he's going to say. If he was a good stand-up, which we know that he isn't, he would be listening to that and he'd go, okay, yes, you've just said about border security, so I can use that to my advantage. But it just gets into a, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, yes, I did. Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, yes, I did. And you can almost see Pelosi going,
Yeah, and the reason I included her bit is she is making an argument for not just any kind of border security, but an evidence-based conversation about about where the money is spent and why and how it's going to be effective.
Where it's most effective. Yeah.
Which makes sense, but obviously is far more nuanced than Republicans' points of view. As
They're just saying we want a wall.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be so bad if he actually then went on to say, him re-polishing the turd, then saying, well, I'm talking about the wall as a kind of metaphorical device to describe border security. And I think we can all agree that border security is uppermost in all of our minds. And everyone will go, well, yeah, you're right. But what we don't actually want is just a wall that you can climb over with a big ladder.
But no, he was saying, no, I want the money for the wall. I want the wall. And if I don't get it, I'll shut down the government, and I'll be proud to shut down the government. I won't blame you for it. I'll take. And of course, a week later, he was blaming the Democrats for the shutdown.
Of course. Yeah.
And what we often see with Trump was that he would say something mad, and then someone else would do the Iron Manning of it. Someone else, one of his, Kellyanne Conway or Sean Spicer, would come along and say, well, what he meant was this, or what, you know, this is what he was really talking about. He did when he talked about Obama wiretapping him in Trump Tower.
Yeah.
Both Kellyanne Conway and Sean Spicer came out and said, well, when he said Obama, he just meant like the Obama administration, and he didn't mean wiretapping exactly. It was just like general surveillance, and he didn't mean Trump Tower, but it was more like just the campaign. And I think we can all agree that the previous government was paying attention to what Trump was doing, and that's all he meant.
Which was just an extended version of Kofifi.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, because what he was actually meaning was, he said, well, no, I did mean Kofifi. It's a code word.
And that's the thing, because sometimes when people try to help him out, he's too stupid to accept the help. And that happened when he was on Hugh Hewitt's show.
Last night, you said the president was the founder of ISIS. I know what you meant. You meant that he created the vacuum. He lost the peace.
No, I meant he's the founder of ISIS. I do. He was the most valuable player. I give him the most valuable player award.
So he's really trying to help him out. It's going like, obviously you didn't mean he founded ISIS. That would be insane to think that. No, that's what I said. That's what I meant.
That's what I actually meant.
I said what I meant.
True. Yeah. Which means and Michael Spicer in the room next door is just flinging his paper in the air at that point, going, "Oh my God!" Listen to them. Listen to what he's saying. He's letting you off the hook. Somehow Trump thinks that demeans him or belittles his point of view or something, and he's got to restate his point of view. He said, no, I actually meant that, because he thinks that makes him strong, and it doesn't. It makes him stupid, and it makes his argument weaker.
Yeah.
So if someone comes and offers to polish the turd, just take them up on the offer.
Absolutely. So our third example in the Trump world section is from 2000 Mules.
Yeah.
And this is election fraud expert. Well, he wrote a book about it anyway. Hans Spakowski, who is explaining their motivation for doing all that they're doing.
Who do these fraudsters pick on? They pick on the most vulnerable in our society. They go into poor neighborhoods. They pick on the elderly. They pick on people for whom English is not their first language. When we're trying to stop election fraud, we're actually trying to protect, I'd say, the most vulnerable people in our society.
So, who could argue with that? Don't you want to protect the most vulnerable people in our society? Let us stop them from being able to vote, except on very specific times and days in one specific
languages
polling place in their county where they have to queue up for 17 hours
without receiving gifts of water.
Because otherwise, you're not helping us protect the most vulnerable people.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, the things that the Republicans try to do to suppress the vote are aimed at stopping the poorest and most vulnerable people in society, the oldest minorities,
the ones who are affected most by Republican policies, who are most likely not to vote for
They're
Republicans.
Exactly trying to stop those people from having access to voting.
Yes, same thing's happening in the UK right now. Got a thing through for the local elections on the 4th of May here, and it says voter ID you need to provide the following items of photo ID for the voting. It's the first time you've ever had to do it. And there are specific things that you've got to have. If you're a student, your student ID card that allows you to get access to your student loan from the government doesn't allow you to vote.
Yeah.
Because it's not a government-sanctioned ID for voting, but it is, of course, for getting a student loan or any access to other government student provision. But no, you have to get because students, by and large, except one wonders where the Young Conservatives come from. Students, by and large, who didn't go to Eton, outnumber the Tory voting people. So the students that generally vote socialist. So yes, let's make it very difficult for students to vote.
And now is the time, I think, for Mark's British politics corner.
Yeah, this one we're going to talk about Braverman and the illegal migrant bill that's going through Parliament now, and how I think that she's been some successfully and unsuccessfully. Well, successfully, I was appalled to discover that there are a whole bunch of Labour Party members, including members of the cabinet, that didn't vote. They neither abstained nor voted against the bill. So I don't know what the fuck they did. But yeah,
can they vote present here? Was that a thing?
I think that's all they did. Yeah. So yeah, so the equivalent of So anyway, in last October, here is Braverman softening us up about the problem with refugees. She's beginning the rhetoric about lumping refugees in with criminal gangs of migrants.
The British people deserve to know which party is serious about stopping the invasion on our southern coast and which party is not. Some 40,000 people have arrived on the south coast this year alone, many of them facilitated by criminal gangs, some of them actual members of criminal gangs. So let's stop pretending that they are all refugees in distress. The whole country knows that that is not true. And it's only the honourable members opposite who pretend otherwise.
Fucking hell, it's so Trumpy, isn't it?
It's awful. Yeah, that some people, some of them, many of them here, some of them are there.
Some of them are good people, I presume.
It's just made up shit. She's trying out the Iron Man stuff. So it's this policy that's secretly making refugees who are fleeing from war-torn countries as refugees and asylum seekers, they are being lumped in with criminal gangs of migrants for which there is no evidence. But she's hiding that under this argument that you're either for it or you're against it. You're either for this side of the house that are going to do something about it, or you're for that side of the house that are not going to do anything about it. At a constituency meeting with Braverman, who's her local MP, Joan Salter said this.
I am a child survivor of the Holocaust. I was forced to flee my birthplace in Belgium and across war-torn Europe and dangerous seas until I finally was able to come to the UK. When I hear you using words against refugees like swarms and an invasion, I am reminded of the language used to dehumanize and justify the murder of my family and millions of others. Why do you find the need to use that kind of language?
So she didn't answer as to why she finds it necessary to use that kind of language. She finds it necessary to use that kind of language because she's building a culture war and she's trying to justify the policy that she's about to unleash. Notice also that Joan's comparison with 1930s, the rhetoric of 1930s Germany, predates Gary Lineker's tweet by about 2 months. So then, on the 7th of March, Braverman launched the illegal migration bill and said this.
The illegal migration bill will allow us to stop the boats that are bringing tens of thousands to our shores in flagrant breach of both our laws and the will of the British people. There are 100 million people around the world who could qualify for protection under our current laws. Let's be clear, they are coming here. We've seen We've seen a 500% increase in small boats crossings in 2 years. This bill enables detention of illegal arrivals without bail or judicial review within the first 28 days of detention, and will radically narrow the number of challenges and appeals that can suspend removal.
This is the turd of a policy she's trying to put out there, which is all based on, not dissimilar to Boris during the Brexit Leave campaign with his 80 million Turks that were going to come if they joined the EU. There's 100 million people who are eligible for protection under the International Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights.
Yeah, and they're all coming
under
here.
Under those laws, there are 100 million, and they're all coming here. What the fuck? So this policy is basically tearing up the human rights legislation that we signed up, that we probably had a good deal to do with the writing of. And it also goes against the clear statement for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees who says there's no such thing as an illegal asylum seeker. The whole point is, if you're seeking asylum from a regime that's oppressing you, well, yeah, don't come here because our regime is oppressing us. You're free to go seek asylum somewhere. And also, this policy is seeking to curb the powers of lawyers defending such people under the terms of those laws. And also, the 500% increase in people coming across in small boats is probably because of the war in Syria or the new war in Ukraine. So, Labour's Lynn Brown points out that the previous Home Secretaries were quite incompetent because their policies about asylum seekers being returned to their countries failed, and even sending one to Rwanda, they failed. And this is where Suella Braverman ironmans her turd of an argument. So we know that her argument is basically about curbing human rights and lumping all refugees and migrants into illegal migrants. So she ironmans her, in the face of being called incompetent, she ironmans her argument.
Do you know, Mr. Speaker, what I find irresponsible and frankly incompetent is the Labour Party voting against our measures to remove foreign national offenders, to streamline our asylum system and to take a firm line on illegal migration.
And you kind of go, well, yeah, who wouldn't take a firm line on things that are illegal, and who wouldn't want to remove foreign national offenders? So that's indisputable.
It's also not who they're talking about.
No, well, it will be, because they're going to define anyone who comes here through non-legal routes, i.e. people who are fleeing war, who haven't got time to fill in a visa form, or from a government who wouldn't process it anyway, they'd rather shoot them in the head. You're characterising all of those people as offenders just by the fact that they've come here and broken a law that you've just invented. They've transgressed the unwritten law. I transgressed the unwritten law. So what we're objecting to, we're not disagreeing about everyone will want to remove foreign national offenders and curb illegal migration. By the very definition that it's illegal, we would want it to not happen. What we're objecting to is the criminalising of people like asylum seekers and criminalising the right of the law to intervene to support their claims. 30p Lee Anderson, the guy that says nurses should be using food banks or shouldn't be because they're ruining it for other people, and that you could make a meal for 125 people for less than the price of a pair of shoes. He let slip on New Culture Forum YouTube channel, neither new nor culture nor a forum. It's a right-wing culture wars sinkhole dressed up as a fireside chat. Lee Anderson inadvertently answers Joan Salter's question earlier as to why Braverman is using the language that she is.
The big thing in 2019, there was three things that won us the election. It was nothing to do with me. It was Brexit, it was Boris, it was Corbyn. And it was as simple as that. Those three things together was a great campaign. Great ingredients. At the next election, we haven't got those three things. So we're going to have to think of something else. It'll probably be a mixture of culture wars and trans debate.
There you go. That's why they're doing it. They're iron-manning their argument so it becomes indisputable.
Did he know he was being recorded for that? It feels like the stuff they usually don't say out loud.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to have to come up with some other bullshit this time around.
Bang in the middle of his interview. Yeah, I mean, it's a real he gets some softballs in it. It's proper Farage territory from this guy that looks like looks like a history professor, and he's just saying, yeah, is it a really bad problem, these migrants, or is it just, or is it terribly bad? And then he'll just go, oh yeah, no, it's terrible. Thank you for asking me that. Yeah, no, it is very terrible. It's awful. And then it doesn't say, well, why is that, or that, and then inevitably they get to singing the national anthem first thing at school. All that. Oh no! But yeah, there he is, letting slip the dogs of war. So not one for explaining his actions in terms that could be said to be indisputable while in office. Here's disgraced former Prime Minister and long-term absentee backbencher Boris Johnson, who's rewriting his own history post-Suga's report and post being fined for breaking the law at Number 10, where he was photographed drinking and enjoying several gatherings with staff at Downing Street, for which he was fined £50. So he's at a speech at Global Soft Power Summit. He says this:
the police will apply the law to everyone, high or low. I used to make a joke about how they once arrested Prince Andrew in the shrubbery of Buckingham Palace, which I thought was pretty funny, until they actually fined me for having lunch at my place at the cabinet table in 10 Downing Street. Although I still don't understand the rationale behind it, I do understand the key point, that the law is enforced here without fear or favour, and that is the greatest freedom of all.
Who are we to disagree with that the law should apply without fear or favour, and that's the greatest freedom of all? Underneath that indisputable thing, and everybody in the room's going, yeah, absolutely right, absolutely right. He's hiding his dissatisfaction that it actually applied to him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just don't understand how it applied to me, but woof.
Yeah, no. And he's recharacterising he's doing two bits of turd polishing there. He's recharacterising the fact that he had an illegal gathering of people for his birthday in an office, and
during lockdown, after he had made it illegal to do that,
made the law that you couldn't do that, and then went ahead and did it on that occasion and several other occasions when he was photographed doing it. And he said that I got arrested. Got arrested for having lunch in my office with 15 other people and 8 bottles of champagne and a birthday cake. That's lunch in your office. So that's one turd that he's polishing. And then he polishes it and said, yes, but actually it's the law has got to be upheld without favour or fear. Bastard.
Now the time is here for Braverman to spread fear. Vengeance from the grave, killing people she won't say. Has she lost her mind? Can she see or is she blind? Is she alive or dead? Racist thoughts within her head. She was turned to steel. Tories just not meant to feel. Call it moral crime, finding houses in the wild.
Black Sabbath there, fronted by Ozzy Osbourne doing Iron Man.
Perfect. So in the Fallacy in the Wild, we like to talk about the fallacy of the week from a non-political perspective, and our first example this week comes from Friends.
Yay.
This is an episode where Rachel meets a guy, and the one problem with this guy is that he has a really weirdly close relationship with his sister.
I really like you, okay? I think this could go somewhere. So what if I'm close to my family? You gonna let that stand in the way of us?
Well, I don't know. See, when you put it that way, it's
Danny, hurry up. The bath's getting cold.
What?
Yeah, okay, I'll see you later.
What? Just going, what? Yeah. Oh, well, if you put it like that, yeah.
Just because I'm close to my family, what's the problem? Who could argue with that? You know, that's fine.
Yeah.
So the second example comes from RoboCop, since I couldn't find an Iron Man example as such, but RoboCop's pretty close. But this is not the Paul Verhoeven RoboCop. This is the heretical remake by Jose Padilla. Michael Keaton plays the head of Omnicorp, which is the company that came up with the RoboCop thing, and he is on a kind of Tucker Carlson-esque show hosted by Samuel L. Jackson, and he's kind of defending his product against a senator who is pushing a bill to prevent the use of robot police.
There is no doubt Omnicorp created a sensation, but this bill is not about Alex Murphy. It's about whether America is willing to give robots the authority over human lives.
No, look. This sea change we're witnessing, and it is a sea change, shows that Americans don't really care if our law enforcement systems are manned or unmanned. What they care about is efficiency, and they care about safety.
You're clouding the issue. This is clearly an attempt to sway public opinion with a marketing
What's
stunt.
clear is that with just one system in place, we've cut crime by 80%. Just imagine if we put, I don't know, let's say 100 systems in place. And then I want you to ask yourself, why are you holding us back?
Is that your
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Pat.
Well, there you have it. Who could argue with that? Which begs the question, has the U.S. Senate become pro-crime?
Yeah. See, the U.S. Senate is questioning whether you should let robots kill people without human oversight, and if they're against that, somehow they're pro-crime.
They're pro-crime.
And it's as simple as that. That's the issue. It's like if you think crime is bad, then you should accept robots. And by this point in the film, certainly Omnicorp knows that the only way that they can make this work, basically, this thing that they're kind of trying to market to the public as, look, there's a person inside, is to kind of shut off the person and just let the robot do the killing. And so but the argument they're making is, look, it's crime is down. It's a good thing. How can you argue?
And actually, the senator must be a Democrat. He says, well, you can clearly see that it's just a marketing thing. You're just stirring up public opinion. And when I heard that, I was thinking, well, yeah, that's all Braverman is doing. Just stirring the pot, poking the racists to get them. Don't forget to vote. Poke them, and then characterize it as something else. And if you're against this, in fact, in the debate, is it the other one the other night? So there was a second reading of the bill, and she was saying every patriotic member of the British people will realise the rightness of this. So she's even bringing in, if you disagree, then you're unpatriotic.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah. Language of the 1930s in Germany. Yeah.
So our final example in this section comes from Funny Games, and this is not the Michael Haneke original. This is the non-heretical Michael Haneke remake of his own film 10 years later. But it's basically a word-for-word, shot-for-shot remake. It's a kind of home invasion film where a couple of people attack a family, and one of the attackers, Peter, has kind of tried to get onto a first name basis with his victims, and when they are reluctant to kind of treat him nicely and politely after he's just broken one of their legs, he then does more violence and then says this.
I was just trying to be friendly, improve relations. I thought at least we could keep this whole thing civilized.
So he was just trying to be friendly. After he'd attacked them, wouldn't leave their house and broken one of their legs with a golf club, he was just trying to, just say, you can call me Peter, contact. What's your name, shake my hand, and that. Who could argue? Who could complain about just trying to be civilized?
Trying to be friendly. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So before we move on to fake news this week, it's time to talk about our Oscar pool, because I don't know if you noticed, the Oscars happened, and that means that we have the results of our Oscar pool, where us and several listeners got involved in picking what we thought was going to win the Oscars, and I have to say, you smashed it this year.
Really?
Last year,
I was like 17th or something.
Technically, it's out of 39 is the absolute maximum you could possibly get.
Okay.
Because although there's 23 categories, the pool that we use gives extra points to the kind of main categories: film, director, actor, and so on.
Yeah.
So last year, I came first and I got 26 points.
Yeah, it was a complete bloody fiddle. See, that's
last year,
looks a bit suspicious.
Board, it's fine.
It's
last
optics. The optics are not good, right. Yeah, I was
you
17th
came third
or
last
something.
year, actually.
Oh, third. Oh, okay.
With 14 points.
Blimey, it's a long way down. Yeah.
But this year, you had 26. You got what I got last year. So that's a huge improvement.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except I expect you got 38 or something like that. But does that still leave me in? I'm probably fourth.
You're fourth.
Now, although I've got
year.
20.
Yeah.
Although I've got 26 points.
Yeah, more people.
I see what you're trying to do
you
there.
got to the level that I was at last year, but it turns out this was a bit of an easier year, it seems, because you were fourth.
Yeah, let's call that. Well, it can't be that easy because I didn't. Because three people are above me.
Yeah.
So we're trying to characterise that as easy. Who would fail to disagree that this year was easy?
Yeah.
So that's why I was outsmarted. Well, if it was that easy, why didn't I get more points?
Well, everyone improved who had taken part last year.
Oh, good. Right.
And so in third place was One-Eyed Nick with 28 points. He beat you by 2.
Nice. Oh, yeah. I'll never live it down.
I was actually in second place.
Wow.
With 30 points.
Wow.
But the new champion is Paul C. with 32 points.
Wow. Out of 39. Wow.
But there you go.
Cool.
So that was great. Thank you very much for everyone who took part. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed talking about them. We hope that those of you patrons who have listened to the Oscars special and heard our opinions enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, and then paid no attention. Well, obviously, one or two people paid no attention because they beat one or other of us.
Or both of us.
Or both of us, yes, exactly, yeah.
So thanks very much for taking part. We have made our donation to Care International's Turkey and Syria Fund. If you didn't, or if you did get involved and you would like to join in with that donation process, you can go to fallacioustrump.com/donate, and that'll take you directly to Care International's page to donate to the Turkey and Syria funds for the people who need support following the earthquakes there.
And if you want to listen to what we thought about the Oscar stuff, then that's still available, but you have to become a patron to go listen to that, which you can do for as little as $2, and you get access to, God, there's so much stuff.
Oh, it's just an insane amount of stuff.
It is insane. It has driven us and many of our listeners certifiably insane. So if you want to buy into that, go do it. Yeah.
So we're gonna play fake news, folks. I love the game. It's a great game. I understand the game as well as anybody.
Yes, it's time for fake news, the game where I read out 3 Trump quotes, 2 of which are real and 1 I made up, and Mark has to figure out which one is fake news.
You see, now, before we go any further, I'd just like to say it's extraordinary how imbalanced this game is, because it's clearly biased in favour of one side over the other, and the whole sham edifice should be demolished, frankly, and made into a monument warning against cheating. I guess what I'm saying is that no one should be denied an equal opportunity to participate.
I mean, who could argue with that?
Who could argue with that?
Yeah.
Put it like that.
Absolutely. So we're back at CPAC,
okay,
because it's a gift that just won't stop giving.
The grift that keeps on grifting. Yeah.
And these are some parts. Basically, Trump started his CPAC ending speech with a fairly long section on how awful things are now, and how much worse they'll be if he doesn't win.
Okay.
And how he'll save everything because it's all bad.
Right.
And so these are some of those sections.
Yeah.
Statement number 1.
Yeah.
We mustn't forget the people we're fighting against. They're Marxist thugs who want to destroy the country we love. There's never been a more important fight than the one we're in right now. The fight It's a fight that, let me tell you, it's not a fight we can afford to lose. These people are horrible, sick people, and they won't stop coming for me until they get to you. They won't stop. Nothing can stop them. But we can stop them. With you beside me, we can win, and we can make America great again.
So even when they're out to get people, they won't stop coming for me until they get to you. It's still about him. He manages to get himself in there. Okay.
Statement number 2.
Who are these people that are coming? Anyway, yeah.
If those opposing us succeed, our once beautiful USA will be a failed country that no one will even recognise. A lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy communist nightmare. That's what it's going, and that's where it's going. I used to say that we will never be a socialist country. I said it oftentimes. I said it once at the State of the Union address, and people didn't understand what I was saying. But I'd shout it out loud, and I was right, because that train has passed the station long ago of socialism. It never even came close to stopping, frankly.
Wait. So you've got to vote me in, otherwise we'll become a socialist country. But the train has passed the station of socialism long ago. It never came close to stopping. So what's the problem? Where's the problem? Yeah. I love that filthy communist nightmare. That's really good. I want to have a T-shirt with that on. Yeah.
And statement number 3.
Yeah.
We will expel the warmongers. They are people that don't get it, although in some cases they get it. They get it for their wallets, but we can't do that. We can't let that happen. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists. We will throw off the political class that hates our country. They actually hate our country. No walls, no borders, bad elections, no voter ID. We will beat the Democrats. We will rout the fake news media. We will expose and appropriately deal with the rhinos.
Wow. Well, wow. Throw off cast out the communists, drive out the globalists. Okay, right. So now then, so I was thinking about the last episode where I chose the most colourful one, or one of the most. I ignored the grey one, thinking that's not colourful enough to be fake, but it turned out it was. But there's no grey here. It's all fireworks and nightmares, isn't it? Wow. Okay. So, so I've got to try. So I quite like. Oftentimes, used to say we'd have that. I said it oftentimes. I said it once, and I said it again. That was oftentimes enough. Shout it loud, okay. And the station long ago of socialism. So I don't know whether that's real or a very contrived Jimism. Drive out the globalists, cast out the communists. That's the thing that's sticking out of me. I'm not sure that he's. Now, is he going to have said rhinos? We can stop them. With you beside me. Okay, I think then that rhinos might be real. I think number 2 is real. Okay, I think then. But coming for me till they get to you, that's got Trump all over it. All right. Filthy communist nightmare. Okay, I'm going to go for number 3 is the one that you made up.
Okay, so of the other 2, which are you more convinced by?
I'm more convinced by number 2. The
filthy communist nightmare.
Communist nightmare, yeah.
Okay, and number 2 is real.
If those opposing us succeed, our once beautiful USA will be a failed country that no one will even recognize, a lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy communist nightmare. That's what it's going, and that's where it's going. I used to say that we will never be a socialist country. I said it oftentimes. I said it once at the State of the Union address, and people didn't understand what I was saying. But I'd shout it out loud, and I was right, because that train has passed the station long ago of socialism. It never even came close to stopping, frankly.
Don't you hate that? That kind of it sort of whiny. You could see him. He's got his head back. He's looking down his nose. He's talking in a kind of Marlon Brando-esque thing, but squeezed through a carrot juicer somehow. There would never be a socialist country like it's a bad thing. Yeah, he's never going to be a socialist because he's out for dog eat dog. I'm going to eat all the other dogs, and then I don't have to be a dog.
His theory is that he said we'd never be a socialist country, and he was right, because he obviously was always got to be right, and he was right in as much as soon as Biden got in, it went straight to communism.
Yeah. And he was so right that actually it didn't. The train didn't even stop.
No, it didn't stop at socialism. The socialism train went straight through.
Long ago it never came close to the past station long ago of socialism. It's all I could think of is Johnny Cash, and I hear the train coming down the track. So
past
the station long ago of socialism.
That was a real thing, and you also think that number one was real.
Yeah, I'm beginning to regret it, but yeah.
And number one,
is
fake news.
Oh. See, the thing that got me was these people are horrible, sick people, and they won't stop coming for me until they get to you. That was the convincer. That nice, well done.
Yeah.
So that's but I was fooled by we will drive out the globalists, we will cast out the communists.
See, I think if I mean I'm giving you hints here, but I think if I'd written that, I probably would have kind of scouted around a little bit for a verb that started with a G. If you're going to cast out the communists, you'll do something else with the global. I don't know what you would do, but I would have thought about it for 5 seconds rather than just writing down try that.
But Trump wouldn't do that. So that would be, if you were going to write that one, you would have gone that way and then veered off at the last minute.
Maybe
because you've got to hide it. But you fooled me with don't stop coming for me until they get to you. It's a perfectly Trumpian thing. Nice.
But yes, number 3 is indeed something he said.
Oh, God.
We will expel the warmongers. They are people that don't get it, although in some cases they get it. They get it for their wallets. But we can't do that. We can't let that happen. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists. We will throw off the political class that hates our country. They actually hate our country. No walls, no borders, bad elections, no voter ID. We will beat the Democrats. We will rout the fake news media. We will expose and appropriately deal with the rhinos.
Expose and appropriately deal with. There's something insert punishment here. Yes, exactly. Insert something we will do to the
We've
rhinos
already used
here.
route, and I don't even know what that means. So
exactly. Can't route the
deal
rhinos.
with.
Deal with. Reconcile. Reckon with. No.
I love that we will expel the war.
I hate that. I saw you could see him doing the little finger and thumb thing, can't you? Warmongers.
They're people who don't get it. Well, some of them get it.
They don't. They just don't get it, and then some get it. Oh Jesus! It's a bit like that. There's a new impressionist. Where did I put that? Oh, here he is. So there's a guy called Matt Friend, who's he's a young guy, but he does these absolutely brilliant impressions of Trump and Tucker Carlson and Mitch McConnell, and he's just like a rubber-faced kid, but his Trump contains all of that, warmonger thing. It's just, horrific. But his Mitch McConnell is just really surprising. He puts on the round glasses, tucks his chin in, so he's got 1,000 chins, and then has this really deep voice out of this tiny-headed kid. It's brilliant. Very funny.
So, unfortunately, that means that, once again, you're on a bit of a losing streak, I think. It's been a few weeks since you've got one. But I thought you were going to do it because you were saying, I think the Rhinos is right. I think number 2 is right. And I was like, he's going to get it. But you veered off at the last minute. You panicked.
I did panic. Well, it was the drive out the globalists, card out the communists. That's what got me. And
so, yeah, unfortunately, that means you didn't get that, and I will probably keep coming back to the CPAC speech for
because it's just a rich vein of the Trumpness.
Yeah, I mean, even the bits immediately around these bits were amazing. Yeah. So, yeah,
we should do, because with the new AI vocal, noise reduction thing and voice emulation thing, we ought to be. It should be possible. How? I don't know whether you've not done it already.
Voice emulation one.
Have you? Yeah.
I didn't find
Trump.
I didn't find it very convincing.
Oh, okay.
It was not. Didn't work. Maybe next generation. We'll see. But, yeah. So far,
that'd be good, because you could just write anything, and then he would say it. Then I've got no chance, because any of them, you'll just go, no, that was. I see, this one's real, and then you'll play it, and it'll just typed it in.
It wouldn't convince you at this point,
right? Okay. Get Matt Friend to do it. I'll be completely done.
So it's time for the part of the show that this week, at least, is called Meek Sightseers Are Not a Logical Fallacy. Because Tucker Carlson...
who I now can't stop hearing Matt Friend's Tucker Carlson impression, which has got this maniacal laugh.
Seth Meyers does an excellent Tucker Carlson as well. Right. He's got that cadence down really well.
The up and down bit.
Yeah. I don't think we talked about the fact that Kevin McCarthy gave Tucker Carlson 40,000 hours of January 6th footage, like exclusively, for some unknown reason.
Right.
This happened a few weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And of course, as soon as that happened, everyone knew, well, he's just going to deceptively edit it and then pretend things happened that didn't happen, or pretend things didn't happen that did happen. Obviously, that's what he's going to do. He's Tucker Carlson. And of course, that's exactly what he did.
Well, he's done.
Yeah. And so last week he did a show that was all about how actually the January 6th thing was just hugs and kisses. And everyone was nice and friendly and just having a nice day.
Being cheerful.
Yeah, taking selfies and like having a laugh. It was a nice day out, and everyone had ice cream on the way home. And and he can prove that by not showing all of the violent stuff.
Yeah, right.
And that absolutely proves that no violent stuff happened.
Yeah.
Because that.
He hasn't not gone to the trouble of using timestamps or any of that.
It doesn't really matter, to be honest, because the stuff, because much of the stuff he's got, even though he's got 40,000 hours of footage. The thing is, as with all of the 2000 Mules stuff, the vast majority of that footage is empty corridors, because it's CCTV on places where there weren't insurrectionists.
There were insurrectionists for about an hour.
Yeah, and so lots of the stuff he's used is either stuff that we've already seen, but just with the bits of violence edited out.
Right.
So there's literally at one point he has the QAnon shaman Jacob Chansley coming in and says, look, these are they're just all kind of walking through the doors, and there's no violence or anything. These are just people who they haven't. Yeah, sure. There were a few hooligans who committed vandalism, but the vast majority of them were just tourists. They were just sightseers. They just wandered in through the doors. They didn't know anything bad had happened to let them in. No. And shows the footage.
They just turned up.
That we have seen before, but cut off the bit where people smash in a window, climb through the window, and then kick the door open from the inside. And he just starts his clip just after that happened, and we see people walking in through the now kicked in and destroyed door, and we're like, look at these people not doing violence.
Yeah, look at them just respecting the velvet rope. I mean, that was the anachronistic thing.
It was mad at the time, and we saw that. Yeah,
but they just kind of they smashed their way in, did all that stuff, and then they were looking at the brochures and they're just not going the other side of the rope. Yeah. I mean, the reason that they were not violent at that point was that the guards had retreated for their own safety.
Yeah.
They had broken their way in, having marauded up the steps.
After assaulting 140 Capitol Police officers.
Exactly.
And and trampling over them and beating them with flagpoles and stuff like, and spraying bear spray in their faces.
Yeah.
Then by that point they were in.
Such that one of them had a stroke the following day.
And the two police officers who were in that corridor, when they were confronted by the 65 bad guys who just come in, dressed as buffalo with a Q painted on their face, they were like, I mean, if I interact with them, I'm just going to die. So I'll leave this one.
Go the other way. Yeah.
You can't prove people didn't commit violence by showing footage of them not committing violence.
Yes.
When we've already seen the footage of them committing violence.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. It doesn't erase our memory of the stuff we've seen previously.
Yeah. And it doesn't, and he doesn't recontextualize it either. It just said, well, you're just showing us the middle bit there, Tucker.
Yeah.
You're not showing us the thousand. Doesn't he say there are 100, maybe 1,000 people inside, but there are hundreds of thousands outside?
Yeah, but
where did they all go?
All of the 1,000 people inside were committing a crime.
Yeah. Yes.
The ones outside, some of them weren't.
Yeah. Some of them at the back. Yeah.
No, I mean, the thing is, remember that Tucker is one of the many right-wing voices who laughed and made a big thing about the fact that people called the summer riots in Atlanta and other places mostly peaceful. Because they were mostly peaceful. They were protesters. The vast majority of the people there were protesters, and there were some people who were violent. We don't know to what extent the people who were violent were connected to the people who were protesting, or they were people who want to commit violence and thought this is a good excuse, or what. We don't know. But it was true at that point to say that those protests were mostly peaceful, even though there was some violence. And they were like, look at this burning car. And they called it mostly peaceful. And now he's basically doing exactly
the opposite. Yeah.
In a huge federal building filled with people who are committing criminal trespass at that time and saying, sure, a few of them broke some windows. I mean, there was $2.9 million of damages done.
Wow.
In the January 6th insurrection. And he was like, yeah, sure, there were a few hooligans, but the vast majority of them were meek. They were meek, orderly, peaceful, not insurrectionists.
Sightseeing.
They were sightseers.
Yeah. Taking a selfie in place. But doesn't he also say, by controlling the images you are allowed to view from January the 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day.
Yeah.
So
which is exactly what he's doing.
By controlling the images you're allowed to view from January the 6th, I'm controlling how you, my viewing audience, should understand that day. So this is what annoys me.
Yeah.
One of the annoy me things lists of Tucker Carlson is that what does he actually stand for?
Oh, nothing.
Or is he just against? He's just up for
the lack of self-awareness or shame is astonishing. I did take one clip from the things he said.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't honestly believe he'd actually said it.
With that, here's the video. It doesn't answer every question from January 6th, far from it. But it does prove beyond doubt that Democrats in Congress, assisted by Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, lied about what happened that day. They are liars. That is conclusive. And that fact should prevent them from ever being taken seriously again.
This is Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
complaining that other people have lied about when they haven't lied about anything. The footage he's showing does not absolutely prove or in any way indicate that anything they said were lies. But he is saying
it's not conclusive.
I've proved by showing only some of the footage which doesn't show the stuff that they've talked about.
And saying that they have lied,
And if they're liars, they should not be taken seriously. And this is during the Dominion case where Discovery has shown absolutely conclusively how much he lies about stuff all the time, how much he is constantly lying to his viewers.
And we know that because we've been legally told by law not to believe a word he says.
Yeah, incidentally, the White House response to his production, lots of people said it was shit, basically. The Capitol Police Chief said it was filled with offensive and misleading conclusions. Mitch McConnell said it was a mistake in my view. Mike Rounds, Republican, said, I saw what happened. It clearly was violent. It was an insurrection. Tom Tillis, another Republican, said, I think it's bullshit, the Carlson's video. Yeah. But the White House response said, we agree with the Chief of Capitol Police and the wide range of bipartisan lawmakers who've condemned this false depiction of unprecedented violent attack on our Constitution and the rule of law. We also agree with what Fox News' own attorneys and executives have now repeatedly stressed in multiple courts of law, that Tucker Carlson is not credible.
Nice. Nice.
So the White House are like, they say it themselves. He talks nonsense and shouldn't be taken seriously.
But none of that matters, and he knows it doesn't matter because he is doing. He's kind of a bit worried that people would start worrying that he's not telling the truth. So it's like
mad.
It's like those people that suffer from QAnonness, and all the people that disappeared down the rabbit hole of QAnon and then have to be kind of brought back out like a cult. So he's doing that.
Yeah, and another thing that came out in one of the additional troves of documents from the Dominion case was a message from Alex Pfeiffer, Carlson's producer, who referred to the people who believe that the election was not fair. He called them terrorists. He said it was like negotiating with terrorists, but especially dumb ones, cousin fucking types, not Saudi royalty.
Excellent. Yeah, that's not to say that the Saudi royalty aren't the former, but we get the idea. We get the spectrum. And
this is what they internally in Fox News are saying about the stuff that on the air they're saying this is all totally legit. Behind the scenes, they're saying, I mean, this is all complete nonsense, and all of this is absolute proof that they're lying. And yet Tucker will go on and say, "Oh, I can't believe people have lied. It's unbelievable. How can you possibly take anyone seriously once they've been shown to be a liar?"
They allowed to hold high office. So exactly.
And the thing is that a couple of days after, people responded to his show and said, "Well, clearly he's a madman who's actively lying for money." He went on and had this long kind of 5-minute diatribe about how awful these liars are for doubling down on their lies and how only a sociopath would do that.
Wow.
It's amazing how completely shameless he is. Impressive, in a way.
Yeah, I don't think it's a lack of self-awareness. I think it's an absolute awareness of what's going on and what needs to be said in order to, in order to distract.
Yeah.
So people are pointing at him and going, "Well, he's got a whole deck full of the ace of spades there. He's not putting one out because they're all like that." And then he's going, "Yeah, but look over here. See, some magicians would use a deck that's only got one card in it." Yeah, and those are the ones you need to distrust. You're all nodding your head whilst he's doing the very thing in front of your face. Braverman does the same thing. She accuses the opposition of doing exactly what she's doing, and Carlson is accusing everybody else of the thing that he is doing. That way, it has the ring of authenticity about it. You think, well, he really knows what he's talking about. How is he getting in touch with the reality of that? Well, it's because he's doing it. That's how he's doing that. And then he's pretending some outrage that people like him, not him, people like me, but not me, are doing this kind of stuff. Well, actually, it's only you. It is only you.
Yeah.
You're the only one that's doing it. Everybody else is struggling to come to terms with the lies that people are telling and trying to find some truth in there. And you're not helping.
Yeah. Someone, I don't know who it was, who put it on Twitter this week, but there was a clip from a 1957 film called A Face in the Crowd. Andy Griffith plays a singer, I think, who becomes like a big TV personality, like a kind of evangelical type, who is fully lying to his audience. Right. And there's a point in the film where, while the credits are rolling on his show and he is talking, but not to the viewers, about what fucking idiots his viewers are and how he's completely taking them for a ride, the person behind the scenes kind of switches the audio so that everything he's saying goes out. And it has an effect. His audience are like, I can't believe I've been taken in by this man. He's actually a monster, and he's and the tweet was essentially, well, isn't it nice to think there was a time when fascist people being exposed as fascist liars meant that their audience would think, oh, actually, maybe I don't agree with everything this person is saying. And yet today...
Maybe I ought not to subscribe
it doesn't
to
matter.
their point of view. No.
You can absolutely prove that these people who are telling you what to believe and what to think and what's going on in the world, you can be shown they're actively lying to you on a daily basis. And you're still like, but I still believe it all.
Yeah, you can prove anything with facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's the odd person who used to watch Tucker Carlson, who has heard this stuff and gone, oh, actually, now I feel not great.
I feel
about
like an
him.
idiot. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I feel like an idiot that I've been taken
I want
in.
to believe that there are people who feel like that.
Yeah,
I'm skeptical.
Well, that's the rise of things like what was it called, the New Equality Forum or whatever on the YouTube channel. It feeds into your comfort zone. It's like when we read the QAnon, the Invitation to the Great Awakening. You know, the soccer mom who said that I found my tribe.
Yeah,
because there are these outrageous xenophobic racists who are speaking my language. So I'm comfortable in my prejudice.
Yeah, they said all the stuff I already thought.
yeah. So that's it. Yes. So it didn't challenge me in any way, and I'm not out of my comfort zone. And my comfort zone is to be outrageously awful and prejudicial towards everybody.
And that's basically as Fox News' kind of alternative tagline. Instead of fair and balanced, it's saying the things you already think for money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Carlson is an expert at that, insofar as he doesn't. Any worries he has that viewers will be dropping off because of all this stuff that's actually been truthfully shown. 400,000 hours of footage of people ransacking and killing and smashing and breaking and entering at the behest of a sore loser. He just hits it head on. So he if he has a worry, he will then just accuse other people, unnamed and named people, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not, of being as big a liar as he is. And he knows the big lies he tells, so he can give them some reality. So, and he will just turn any crisis into a money-making exercise.
Yeah.
It's
fucking shameless.
Yeah, and it outrages us because we can see straight through it. And so even down to using the language like they are telling you what to think about January 6th by editing what you get to see as the voiceover for what he's doing. It's awful. And the whole migrant rhetoric. There was a great sketch that I saw on Twitter where there was a kind of town hall meeting with a Conservative MP, and the MP they were saying, yes, I've got this huge waiting list at the NHS because it's been defunded. I can't get my kids into school. There's no free meals. The classrooms are too big because of defunding. And then the Conservative MP and they say, what are you going to do about it? He said, well, I'm not going to do anything about it because it's all his fault. It just points to a guy called Ali at the back. And said, because he's a migrant. That's why you can't get into the hospital because and then Ali turns out to be a doctor. He said, "Oh, well, I'm a doctor." He said, "Well, it's just that whole blaming the other, which reinforces everybody's prejudices, and it plays into that existing thing." And what was the and there was a question on Channel 4 with our favourite Channel 4 news presenter, and he was asking a guy who'd studied both Trump and Johnson, and he was saying, well, he was asking the devil's advocate question, well, what's wrong with advocating the populist view? And the expert was saying, well, the problem with the populist view is that it always shifts. That's why we have laws. That's why we had the Magna Carta, that the law is above the king. And so the current version of that is that the law is above those in charge, so that the people in charge can't change the law to suit themselves, to suit the populist view, which is exactly what Braverman's doing, is to change the law about human rights to suit their current policies and then call it, this is the will of the British people.
Yeah.
It may well be the will of the British people that happen to want to vote for Farage but will now vote for Tories and therefore won't threaten their majority. That may well be true, but it's not what the British people think, as illustrated by Gary Lineker saying, well, this is like 1930s Germany, and the British people thoroughly agreeing with him. And that's so, yeah, and so Carlson is broadcasting to a minority, but a large number of people. And that's the scary thing. And the same rhetoric that's being used by Braverman was used by my next door neighbour when he had a problem getting an appointment at the GP. And he said, if it wasn't for all the brown people, I would be able to get, if it wasn't for the immigrants, I would be able to get in the queue. And so I deployed the old, let me just stop you there.
And then walk away.
And then walked away. Let me just stop you there. And I just said, well, you know that's not true, don't you? Well, he doesn't, because he watches that kind of fucking television all day long.
Yeah.
And he has the power to vote. And the people that broadcast this stuff know that, and that's why they target them to do so. That's what, but...
Yeah, I mean, one of the responses from a presumably Tucker Carlson fan.
Yeah.
Someone posted the message where Tucker says that how much he hates Trump with a passion.
Right.
So this guy said, well, this doesn't play into your rhetoric, because if he hates Trump, why would he be so kind of, why you're claiming that he lies for Trump? Well, why would he do that if he hates Trump? And like every single reply after that was, well, money, obviously.
Yeah. he's just doing it for money.
Absolutely. He's doing everything he does for money. All the things he says, he doesn't believe them. He gets paid for it.
He has outrageous opinions every week for money. Yeah. Bit like Jeremy Clarkson. Yeah. That's the people's farmer. Jeremy Clarkson has, on demand, he will have an outrageous opinion.
Yeah.
Because it serves his Daily Telegraph readership, or the Sun, or whatever, the Spectator. But that's so it's dangerous enough because he has a television channel, but it's even more dangerous in the hands of, I hesitate to say elected politicians, because the current bunch, nobody did, but in the hands of politicians, policymakers, lawmakers, to peddle that rhetoric. That seems to me to be a bit more dangerous, because, but there's still evidence.
It's all dangerous, unfortunately.
It's all dangerous, yeah. Like Tucker Carlson trying to see what I want him to have done is to recreate the day, but with but with like plasticine figures with claymation, and just to do that and go, see, perfectly. They're just coming out for a very large picnic, and then you cut to the.
I mean, he might as well have just shown an episode of Peppa Pig and gone, look, nobody is attacking the Capitol in this episode. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, even the Doctor, who scarily isn't a pig.
Then none of them are pigs except the pig family.
Okay, yeah,
different animals.
Yeah, you see, but that's it. Because, but
the best named character in all of literature or fiction, their teacher, Madame Gazelle.
Yeah. Why is that?
Mademoiselle. She's French. Madame Gazelle.
Oh, I see. You missed out the French bit. Yeah.
I thought you get it from Madame, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's what because I went to proper school, unlike you.
Oh, you called all your teachers Madame, did you?
Madame and Sir. Yeah.
Okay.
We were brought up.
No,
like
it's
that.
not. It's not that it was a proper school. It was just that it was that many years beforehand.
So predictable.
By the 70s, we were allowed to call people Mr. and Mrs.
By the turn of the century, yeah. Okay. And finally, some things we really don't have time to talk about.
A couple of weeks ago at CPAC, Lauren Boebert spoke out against sex education, saying there shouldn't be any student in a public school learning comprehensive sex ed. On an unrelated note, she announced this week that she'll soon be a grandmother at age 36. It seems Lauren managed to figure out sex despite only getting her GED months before her 2020 election to Congress. And it seems her 17-year-old son also managed to muddle through. Boebert confirmed to the press that her son and his partner were not married, but declined to reveal the age of the girlfriend, other than to say she's over 14. So 15 then. That's how numbers work, isn't it? I mean, if she was 17 or older, Bobo would say that, presumably.
Yeah.
17 is the age of consent in Colorado, by the way, although there are exceptions when both partners are no more than 4 years apart in age. Wow, 15. That's even younger than the girl that Lauren's husband Jason exposed himself to in a bowling alley in 2004. Which party is it again that constantly claims they want to protect children? I know I said this last time about education in general, but maybe less sex education isn't the way to go here.
Hi, Chat GPT. I have a question for you. If you don't do any reading but watch 5 or 6 TVs at once, can barely write except with a Sharpie or a crayon, how can I look literary, popular, relevant, and a man of letters? Thank you for your question. Nothing says deeply insecure has been quite like publishing private correspondence with the hope that people would believe you once garnered respect. No, that wasn't ChatGPT's reply, but Hillary Clinton's spokesperson, Nick Merrill, speaking to Newsweek. It feels like the adult equivalent of when a toddler proudly presents you with what they've done on the potty, which feels a bit like a ChatGPT analogy, not quite on target, but you get the idea. Trump is about to publish a book of correspondence. Yeah, you're right. It's not Churchill and Roosevelt we're talking here, or even Hemingway and O'Keeffe. It's a bit more one-sided. It's just letters he's got from famous people, including Jay Leno, Oprah Winfrey, Hillary Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, Kim Jong-un, and Princess Diana. So yeah, all good contemporary stuff. The problem is neither Leno nor Clinton gave permission for him to do so, and the precedent that the writer holds the copyright and not the recipient was set in 1741, when poet Alexander Pope successfully sued Edmund Curll for publishing Pope's letters. At $99, or $399 for a signed copy, a real signature, you think? The book is out on April 25th and may, courts permitting, even contain some real letters, including repeating demands for payments from everyone he's ever hired to do some work for him, and the original note for Donald to please be excused from the draft because he has bony spurs this week. Signed, My Pop.
In other Republicans are all about protecting children news, the GOP-led Senate Judiciary Committee in West Virginia voted on a bill which would ban child marriage in the state and establish 18 as the age of consent. And I bet you can't guess which way they voted. What's that? Oh, okay, yeah, of course. They rejected the bill, going instead with the current system of no minimum age for marriage.
Whoa.
Children as young as 16 can marry with parental consent, and according to the AP News article, anyone younger than that also must get a judge's waiver. What the fuck? Why do you have a rule giving instructions for marrying someone younger than 16? In the UK, we have a thing called the Food Standards Agency, which gives restaurants and cafes a rating on how hygienic they are, kind of like health inspectors do in the US. And they give stickers that the eating establishments can put up to show how clean they are. It's a 6-point scale that runs from 0 to 5, with 5 being the highest. And it always blows my fucking mind that 3 is hygiene standards are generally satisfactory. How are there 3 more ratings below that? Just shut the fucker down. Don't give them a rating and a fucking sticker. Anyway, that's how I feel about West Virginia marriage laws.
Randy McNally, Lieutenant Governor of Tennessee, you know, the state that's just signed bills into law that bar transgender children from receiving gender-affirming care and outlaw drag performances in most public spaces, among more than 24 other bills proposed by Republican lawmakers in the state targeting LGBTQ people and culture. Randy may be Tennessee's best example of A, hypocrisy, and B, nominative determinism, because he's been commenting in effusive terms on one Franklin Superstar's Instagram account. 79-year-old Randy heart emojied a pic of a man's backside that appears to show him only wearing briefs, left a message, love it, and a heart under a picture of Franklin dancing in the rain in underwear, and a message using Franklin's nickname, Finn, you can turn a rainy day into rainbows and sunshine. Ever the politician, Randy McNally, insisted that his intentions behind the Instagram comments have been misconstrued, answering, I don't know, a lot of times on some people's posts, you see the name, you see what they've written, and you just press the button that says like. When in an interview with national-based WTVF, he was asked why he liked Franklin's bio that included a part about how he gets free weed for giving oral sex. Activist and former Democratic candidate Kate Craig tweeted, well, I'm not going to drag Lieutenant Governor McNally for his comments, but I will drag him for his hypocrisy. He's put LGBTQ plus Tennesseans' lives in danger. And Franklin Superstar himself added, if he can be kind to a 20-year-old guy posting his butt, he can be kind enough not to help pass a bill that hurts anyone like me. Yeah, Randy, how about that?
For all the people who claim Democrats are just as bad as Republicans and that there's no difference between the parties, here's a great example to bolster your case. Yes, the GOP-led House of Representatives are spending all their time coming up with fake investigations and never doing any actual representing or trying to do anything to actually help people. But in the Nebraska State Senate, there's a Democratic lawmaker who spent the past 3 weeks actively blocking and delaying any attempt to pass any bills of any kind. Senator Michaela Kavanagh has spent 8 hours a day filibustering every bill that comes up for debate, talking about everything from Omaha's best donuts to the plot of the film Madagascar, in order to prevent votes being taken and bills being passed. Kavanagh's objection to the state Senate getting any work done is that the work they'd like to get done is the passage of bills which would ban abortions after 6 weeks, ban gender-affirming care for anyone under 19, and ban trans people from using bathrooms and locker rooms or playing on sports teams that don't align with the gender listed on their birth certificates. Kavanagh explained, if this legislature collectively decides that legislating hate against children is our priority, then I'm going to make it painful for everyone. For any Republicans taking notes, this is what protecting children looks like. Trans youth are at far higher risk of suicide than their peers, and it's largely due to how they're mistreated and stigmatised by society, which is only made worse by these kinds of bills. The American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American Psychiatric Association all support gender-affirming care for youths.
Remember when our hearts bled when we learned from Devin Nunes of the prospect that Truth Social could run out of money unless the merger with Digital World Acquisitions Corporation, DWAC, went through? No. Well, us neither. But anyway, the merger has, shall we say, hit a few stumbling blocks, DWAC being under investigation over whether the deal was made before they became a public listed company, a deal that would give Truth Social $1.3 billion and a stock market listing. And then a couple of other stumbling blocks in terms of dodgy-looking loans, $8 million of dodgy. A $2 million loan payment to Trump Media came in December 21, wired from Paxum Bank, registered in Dominica. The wire transfer identified Paxum Bank as the beneficial owner, although the promissory note identified an entity called ES Family Trust as the lender. 2 months later, an unexpected second $6 million payment arrived in Trump Media's account from ES Family Trust. The trustee of ES Family Trust, a completely legit-sounding person called Angel Pacheco, appears to have also been director of Paxson Bank and a part owner of Paxson Bank. Anton Postolnikov appears to be a relation of Putin ally Alexander Smirnov, the first Deputy Minister of Justice in Russia until 2014, who served in the executive office of the president for most of Putin's first 2 terms. The obscure origins of the $8 million loans caused alarm at Trump media, and in the spring of 22, Trump's media then Chief Financial Officer Philip Yuhan Wade returning the money. According to Trump media's ousted co-founder turned whistleblower Will Wickerson. But the money was never returned, Natch. And it just keeps on garnering interest. Prosecutors appear to have also taken a special interest in the payments because the offshore Paxson Bank has a history of providing banking services for the pornography and sex worker industries, which makes it a higher risk of engaging in money laundering and other illicit financing. It's a wonder Trump can see anything at all, is turning so many blind eyes. Still, his solid business ignorance should make him GOP favourite for the presidential run next year, where orange Trump suits will be the campaign uniform.
After I told you about the sterling investigation work of Nashville's News Channel 5 uncovering Congressman Andy Ogle's lies last episode, you probably thought the good people at News Channel 5 had earned themselves a nice cup of tea and a sit down. But that kind of attitude didn't get them where they are today, which I assume is at least in the top 5 news channels in Nashville. So instead, they looked into a tip they had about a story so sensitive, personal and tragic that some might assume it might never be used for financial gain. In 2014, Ogles and his wife reportedly had a stillborn son, and 2 days later, Ogles started a GoFundMe to raise money for a children's burial garden in his memory. The campaign raised almost $25,000, which GoFundMe has confirmed was paid to Congressman Ogles. But 8 years later, there's no children's burial ground, and nobody seems to know what he did with the money. Ogles has refused to give any explanation, but did accuse the reporters of exploiting the death of a child, which is fucking rich. Meanwhile, we can't forget the OG GOP criminal liar. No, not Trump. The other one. No, not that one. Oh, this could take a while. It's George Santos I'm talking about. And this week, Gustavo Trelha, a former roommate of Santos, gave a sworn statement to the FBI accusing Santos of orchestrating a massive ATM and credit card skimming operation. Santos filed the paperwork this week to run again for his seat in Congress in 2024, which might be the most optimistic thing I've ever heard. I don't mind whether Santos or Trump gets indicted first, but I'd appreciate it if they could make sure they hold the televised trials on different days, so I really want to watch them both.
Yes, it's so inconvenient having to watch 2 things at once, isn't it? Yes. Last week, Gary Lineker, world-class soccer player who never got a yellow card or a red card in his career, and TV sports pundit, remarked, just like Joan Salter, that the language of Suella Braverman was rather like that of the language of 1930s Germany. To prove that they weren't at all like that, the Tories brought pressure to bear on independent national broadcaster the BBC to sack, silence and make disappear Lineker for disagreeing with the government. He was duly stepped back from presenting the famous Match of the Day show on the Saturday. And every other TV sports pundit followed suit in support, and the BBC was left to broadcast big swathes of emptiness without any commentary. Once again, public sportsmen and team players like Marcus Rashford and England team manager Gareth Southgate before him, Lineker showed the moral vacuum at the heart of politicians and what the people of Britain actually thought, which ran somewhat contrary to what our superficially elected representatives in the Westminster middle-class liberal elite / out-and-out vote-hungry xenophobic racists think they thought. The BBC reached a compromise where they reinstated Lineker on the basis that he issued an apology. No. Won't do it again. No. Promised to check if he should tweet something with the BBC before he does. No. His reinstatement has naturally led to libellous comments from Tory MPs who didn't read what Gary actually said and compared that with what 1930s Germany actually said, but just went all out accusing Lineker of calling voters who voted Tory actual Nazis. Meanwhile, Jeremy Hunt, who said of the Lineker thing that it was nothing to do with government and had previously done the same with the enormous rate of inflation, war and pestilence and migrants are to blame for that, nevertheless took credit in this week's budget for bringing inflation down at some time in the future. It took Starmer, leader of the opposition, to point out that this was probably due to no one being able to buy anything because the prices were too high and their wages were not being put up because of inflation. Jeremy, what rhymes with Hunt, has the gurning rictus smile of a moose struck by an ancient Ford S10 pickup with the LED light bar over the cab, surprised when people could actually see what he's doing, but unable to prevent the oncoming crash. There's still time to swerve, folks. Only 12 months or so till we get to vote them out. Don't be misled in the meantime. They are empty, meaningless, vindictive, and dangerous bastards.
So that's all the bad arguments and faulty reasoning we have time for this week. You'll find the show notes at fallaciousstrump.com. And if you hear Trump say something stupid and want to ask if it's a fallacy, our contact details are on the contact page.
If you think we've used a fallacy ourselves, let us know. And if you've had a good time, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, or simply tell one other person in person about how much they like our podcast. And you can support the show at patreon.com/ftrump, just like our newest patron, Alice Watson, our strawman level patrons, Don Tuvey, Renee Z, Schmutz, Mark Reiki, and Amber R. Buchanan, who told us when we met her at a QED we could just call her Amber, and our true Scotsman level patrons, Stephen Bickle, Janet Uetta, Kaz Tui, Andrew Hout, Max Beaver, and our top patron, Lauren. Thank you so much for your continued support. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
You can connect with those awesome people as well as us and other listeners in the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/FallaciousTrump.
All music is by The Outbursts and was used with permission. So until the next time on Fallacious Trump, we'll leave the last word to the Donald.
That's right. Go home to mommy. Bye. Bye.